All right, I'm back with you.
We're good?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're good.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, Adam. We guys, welcome back to the Hushlife podcast. I am your host today, Brian. I don't have the rest of the crew, so I feel I'm all by myself on this one, guys. So I'm in the beautiful city of Sheridan, Wyoming, and across the table from me in the Wetherby World Headquarters is Mr. Adam Wetherby. So welcome.
Well, thanks, Brian. Good to have you here, man. I know it's been a while. I think Casey's been up since the grand opening, but your first time here in a little bit. And
been a couple of years.
Yeah.
Adam, some of you guys might remember Adam from some hunts that we've been on in the past. Specifically, in 2017, we did a New Mexico elk hunt. It was like our first opportunity to get out in the field with you. Mm-hmm. After kind of starting a partnership with Wetherby in 2016, which it's pretty wild how fast time flies.
Yeah, 6 years.
That was a exciting trip, just to have a chance to get out with you, spend some time, trucking around the backcountry hills of New Mexico, and eventually getting a double on day 4.
Yeah, you got lucky there.
I did.
It was a 5-day season too.
It was.
And then you and your New Mexico 7-pointers drives me nuts.
I can't kill a 6-pointer for the life of me.
No, that was crazy, man, the way that worked out. But that was a fun day. I got mine in the morning. You got yours at night, I think.
It did. It was a great way to end it.
Yeah.
And I think what was cool, too, that was like Hushlife the Movie 2.0 we did for that one. So we did it right before the Hunt Expo. We launched it at the movie theater. It has been one of our most viewed videos over the years. I think we're right around 1 million views on that.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No way. It's funny. I'll have people all the time bring up that film that they saw it. Oh, I've seen you before. You're on that one Hush elk hunt. I just am glad I made a good shot on that film.
Absolutely.
So
there was a great line that you said, thanking your grandpa right after you shot your bull, and it was with the 300 Wetherby.
Yeah.
And I think at the time, it must have been around maybe 40, 50 years since he had launched that particular cartridge.
More?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because it was in the 40s.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what the quote was. You had a good quote there that was kind of good. Mm. But I think what I'm curious about is, and I think a lot of listeners would be interested in, is what it's been like for you, now a third generation owner of the Wetherby brand. And I mean, I was listening to a podcast on the drive out here, the Jocko podcast. I know you know Jocko.
Yeah.
He had a guest on who the guy owns a large private equity company, goes out and buys other companies specifically in kind of like the service, blue collar entities. And one of the things he noticed in his years of doing this, and super successful guy, was when he acquires businesses that were created by the original founder, second generation only has a 30% success rate of that business continuing. And when you get to the third generation, the success rate drops to only 12% of businesses continue. Yeah. I thought that was a really interesting point, which you being a third generation owner now.
Beat the odds.
You guys are beating the odds.
Yeah, no, I've read those same stats and different books on it, and everything. And that's what I always joke about. I'm like, well, my dad and Grandpa laid out a great foundation. I got to just not burn the thing down, right? And it's it's an incredible foundation, I think, that was started. And I think what my grandpa did, and it was really in the first 15 years, I would say, especially the 1950s. We started in 1945. And he did for a brand before the onset of the internet and social media and different things so much that after that first 10 to 15 years, it was a world-renowned, prestigious rifle and ammo brand. People knew who my grandpa was, knew the brand. And then it was on those first 15 years that the rest just really built. And so he was able to, he was a marketing genius. And that's the thing about my grandpa. He was a marketing genius, but he also was an innovator, a tinkerer, wildcatter, making these new cartridges. And so he was a combination of those things. I always say, my brother, he makes custom knives. He makes stuff. I can't make stuff, but he makes amazing custom knives. I could sell them, market them, I could talk about, I could use them, I could, the business part, team development, all those kind of things. I'm passionate about that. My grandpa was kind of like my brother and I together. Yeah. Where he had the people part of him and that sales and marketing element, but then had the builder part too. And because of that and the people he met, the people he rubbed shoulders with out in California at the time, John Wayne, Roy Rogers, all those guys, being the only guy on the West Coast basically that was doing, major kind of, gun company at the time. So he really kind of owned that area and that kind of spot of the globe and used that. And so it's crazy to see how it got developed and, just how known that name got in such a short period of time, especially obviously before media as we know it today.
Right.
So.
Walk us back through when you were young and what it was like interacting around the family business and what you kind of recall in the early days.
Yeah. I mean, my grandpa passed away when I was 12 in 1988. And so him and he wasn't that healthy in his last years either. So, I have a lot of memories more with my dad in the business, obviously, and in hunting as well, because my grandpa wasn't really fit or healthy to hunt when I got into hunting. And then, of course, he passed away. And so, it was more, less even the products and the hunting and more just the name recognition. I remember as a kid that just kind of, to me, it was just like, I don't know, I thought everybody's grandpa and dad had, African animals all over the wall and guns laying around the house. Like, it's just kind of the way I grew up, and so, but obviously then the older I got, I realized, oh, this is actually not like every other kid. When I go to their house, they don't have like an elephant foot wastebasket in their office like my grandpa did. Like, this is weird, And so, certainly kind of growing up in that environment, it was definitely unique and it was, but it was part of who we are. And because obviously it was my dad's dad, it's our last name, just the name was recognizable. And that's probably the main thing is kind of an early childhood. And then of course, as I got more into my teenage years and got more into outdoors and those things, then it changed, where it was truly something that I was, oh, wow, this is pretty cool. This is fun.
When did you start working within the business and what did that look like? Sure.
Yeah, my kids started working when they were real young, unofficially, off the record, of course, like all family businesses. My dad had moved when I was in about 8th grade. We moved from Southern California up to the Central Coast, and it wasn't until 5 years later that the business moved. That's about a 4-hour drive. So my dad actually commuted for years down there, and his goal was to get the business out, but due to a lot of reasons, it ended up taking him a lot longer than he thought. He thought it was going to be a year, and it was 5. And so, like, when I was in high school, the business wasn't located where we were. And so my dad would commute down to L.A. every week, and he was down in L.A. and said, I'm getting my family out of here, and the business will follow. And then just timing didn't work out for him. So for me, I didn't then. I basically started working with the company when I was 19. I was in college. So I got married young. I got married at 19 and ended up finishing college on the side and working on the side. And, Brenda and I both did that. And so really started working that, like, kind of that first 3 years when I was 19 to like 22, was doing everything from customer service to a little bit of sales, a little bit of marketing, trade shows, answering the phone, having upset customers yell at me, work tech support with Dean Rumbaugh, who worked for us for 57 years just to learn from Dean. I know you remember Dean.
I do, yeah.
So, so kind of started into it then. And then obviously, first time you go out to trade shows and get out in the world, you start to really figure out, like, hey, what is the customer perception of this brand? And what does that really mean?
Back in those early days when you were just kind of getting your feet wet in the business, did you have any long-term aspirations that you thought, like, one day, like, this is something I would like to do, is continue the family business? Or was it like, this is just my family's business, I got to work here right now?
I think it starts out like that. Our kids are now 19 and 20, and, people ask them and they ask us. And I think back to when I was 19 and 20, and, what we try to do is not obviously force them. And my dad certainly didn't do that for me, where they're going to do a heck of a lot better job if it's something they're passionate about and want to do. And
sure.
So those first few years, I was just trying to figure out, I was newly married. I was like going to work every day. I was trying to finish college on the side. It was like, I didn't know what the heck I wanted to do, honestly. And so, I think as Brian, part of my story was then when I was 22 or 23, I went into full-time ministry and left working at Wetherby full-time and went into the church world and did that because that's what my heart was beating for, what I was really passionate about. I was a youth pastor for a long time and loved seeing just young people's lives turned around and given direction. And so went into that for a number of years. And so I think it's healthy when a multi-generational family business, when a kid can go. It doesn't always work out, but where they can go, whether intentionally or unintentionally, go do something else.
Sure.
And so, obviously, I even have degrees in theology and I'm running a gun business, so it's kind of funny. God's got a sense of humor, but it was working with people. It's leading teams. It's communicating. It's casting a vision. It's collaborating. Those are things, that I knew that were my skill sets and natural giftings, if you would, that had been in those areas. And then when I came back to the family business full time, it was a crash course on relearning. I mean, I had to surround myself with experts in engineering and marketing and accounting and manufacturing and machining, and you go on down the list, and it's like, I didn't know all those things.
Yeah.
I knew our family business. I knew our brand, knew the outdoor space. But the nuts and bolts, it's hard. Manufacturing's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is not for the faint of heart. We went through a tour down there today, and it's not easy. I mean, there's a lot of people doing a lot of things and a lot of machines with a lot of tools. There's everything from safety to constant supply, to costing, supply chain issues, especially these days. You can have scrap. I mean, it's a complicated thing to make something out of a bunch of nothing, or a bunch of raw components. Yeah. And, I often say, man, there's certainly harder and easier things to make. Being in the gun space, like, you're dealing highly regulatory item, a whole lot of parts that go into it, an item that's very dangerous by intent.
Yep.
And so it's not for the faint of heart. Like, it's not like we're making toilet paper.
Exactly.
It's like,
So when you jump back into the family business, how many years was it until you felt like you really had a grasp of all the components of the business? And obviously you had some great mentors and people that have worked for the company forever that probably helped you digest all these different components of the business.
Yeah. It was probably about 3 years.
3 years, yeah.
2 to 3 years. Yeah. I thought it was going to be a heck of a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Honestly. Probably like most dudes jumping like, I got this.
Yeah.
And there's been different chapters. And when my dad moved the business from Southern California to the Central Coast, part of that was like starting over. It was hiring a lot of new folks. It was in a new facility, and it was like, hey, Roy's gone. And his legacy is living on. But, my dad's like, I'm leading this thing now, and here's how we're going to do it. And my dad and I are, best friends, and we get along awesome. I'm a different leader than him at the same time. And so, I had to step in and figure out what that looked like for me, to lead the company and how that was different. And frankly, the move to Wyoming, which I'm sure we'll get into, is a bit a part of that too. It was like we brought some amazing people with us, but we were able to hire a lot of amazing people here and form a new team and blend that in with an old team. But part of that, I mean, so much of what we do is people and the people we have. And as you were on the factory floor today, it's all those people that you got to see out there. To me, that's my favorite part of the tour here is it's not about necessarily it's seeing the outcome of the product, but all the touch points that have to go into it and all the people that are passionate about, what it is. But anyways, so going back to your question, I think it took me a while. The people part maybe is more natural to me. I love communicating, I love people, all that. The technical part was certainly hard. And then it was, it didn't take me long to realize where my dad was towards the end. He moved it from Southern California to Central Coast, much of the same reason I did. LA was obviously not a great place to have a gun company. But then California in general, so my dad moved it up to the Central Coast. California was different 30 whatever years ago than it is now. And so, it didn't take long for me to realize California has a great past and a rich history and a rich heritage for Wetherby, but it did not have a future.
Yeah.
We did not have a future in California. And so that was part of the first leadership thing as I went, if I'm going to really leverage this thing into the third generation and really take that brand and grow on it and build this and make Wetherby the company we all hope it can someday be, it was not going to be in California. And that was one of the first hardest things to do.
So what year did you kind of take the transitional reins off your dad's hands and into your hands?
Sure. January of 17 is when I officially stepped in as like president or CEO. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Before that, I'd say the year before that, I was kind of running a lot of the day-to-day operations for a year or two before that. But that's when officially he's like, Adam, I've been here for decades. I'm done.
Here.
Yeah.
Figure out our next step.
We had at SHOT Show, we had official kind of handing off party in our booth. Were you there for that?
I was, yeah.
Okay,
I remember that.
Yeah, that was January 17th. So
January
that was
17th,
5 years ago.
Crazy.
Or no, 5 years?
Yeah, 5 years.
Feels like 20.
I can imagine.
That was pre-move.
When you took over the reins in 2017, January, did you already have plans? Was it already working to try to figure out where's our next home?
Yeah. We started looking fall of 14.
Wow.
Started. We then put it on the back burner because it's just, we had to do just day-to-day operations of the business. And it was sideways energy, to go out and start talking to other states and economic development agencies and figure all that out when you're like, still have to develop new product. We got to hire people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we got to
run the business.
We got to run the business. And so there was a time period we just thought it was going to cost us a lot of money, and with how we were doing business-wise at the time, ended up putting it for about a year maybe or so on the back burner. Then it was actually, so we'd looked at a number of western states. We knew we wanted to stay out west, just not as west as we were. We didn't want anything touching the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
And so we started to look at some other states, and then what's funny is fall of 16, me and my family, Brenda and the kids were on a hunt out here in Wyoming. And we used to come all the time. And we wrote Wyoming off because, like, there's no people.
Yeah.
It's windy and cold. And we just didn't think there'd be enough infrastructure, enough personnel, like enough, you know what I mean? So we'd always kind of wrote it off. So we'd talked to a handful of other states over the previous year or two. And I remember we were on our way back. We were towing a jumping jack, and kids were in the car. And Brenda hotspot on our laptop and went, wait a minute. Like, we're just going to start, we just had an awesome hunt in Wyoming. You know what? Maybe we wrote it off too soon, because we did. And right when we got back from that trip, that's what spurred it on. We got in touch with the Economic Development Agency. A few weeks later, I got a call from then Governor Matt Mead, fall of 16. And he's like, Adam, we're going to get you Wyoming. We're going to do whatever it takes. We're gonna make new laws if we have to get you here. Whatever it's going to do, we're going to get you here. And it just started on a trajectory at that point to get us here pretty hard.
Yeah.
So
the total timeline there from kind of the initial conversation until actually opening ceremonies.
Yeah, crazy. So fall of 16, we talked. I remember he was on a quail hunt. I was on a business hunt. I remember we talked on the phone the first time. Fall of 16, I can't remember the month, maybe November or October. We met at that same SHOT Show when we did the handing off, January 17. We really met with him and his economic development team. Brenda and I came out here May of 17, and we did a got to ride around the state jet. It was kind of cool.
That's cool.
We visited multiple communities out here, middle of 17. And then it was during that trip that our heart was pulled to Sheridan, Wyoming. Part of it might have been because we were in Laramie, and it snowed 18 inches. And the 2 days we were in Sheridan, and the birds were chirping, it was green and 65. But a number of reasons, Sheridan worked out for us. But and Laramie's a great place too.
Sure.
But we just love Sheridan. And so that was May of 17. After that, we really got the ball rolling for the rest of 2017. And then there were some grants and different things the state was going to have to do that had to go through some things. But again, here I was used to California, regulatory environment. I thought, gosh, this is going to take years. Pretty much a 17 trucked on. Remember there was a call, and we were on with the head of the Economic Development Agency here, and it was like, wait, okay, so if we do this and we push this through, and we give you guys from an incentive package what we say we're going to do, are you guys 100% in? And we were on speakerphone. I remember my office, my dad's old office in Paso, and we looked at each other, and it was this pause, because we'd never really asked each other that. When you talk about different things as a couple or whatever, and it was a pause, and we looked, and we just nodded at each other, and I'm like, yeah, we're doing this. If you guys come through, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And so we told them. It's probably mid-17. And then towards the fourth quarter, they had a bunch of meetings. All that was lining up. We were trying to figure out what are we going to do with personnel, what are we going to do with the building. We identified the lot that we're on here now, all that kind of stuff. And then January of 18, year after we would have met with the governor before, we announced at a SHOT Show, so we had a party that year. You were at that one too, baby?
Indeed.
And that party was, we're going to Wyoming. The governor was there, and it was a great time. And so that was January. Obviously told our employees.
What was the response for the employees? Because you had a lot of people that were with you for many years.
What's crazy is it was really positive, and even those that couldn't come, they got it. Yeah. There was nobody that went, why are you doing that? Mm-hmm. They all cared about the future of the brand, and it was kind of like, yeah, duh, we get it. We understand. Many of them were sad if they lost long-term employment because they either didn't want to or unable to, or in most cases their spouse didn't want to move to the cold or whatever it was. We didn't get them here, but they were like, yeah, we get it. Yeah. So that was cool. So that was January 18, made those announcements, came out here first week of April in 18 and broke ground on this building. Moved out here with my family, June of 18, started rehiring up all the office folks, sales, marketing, accounting, all that stuff here. So summer 18, rebuilt that team, moved some folks up here. We're building this building, had a temporary warehouse here in town, temporary offices here in town, and had back in California manufacturing stuff. So we had 4 facilities. So that time period, that first year, moved here, built a home, moved my teenage kids that didn't want to move, obviously in the middle of high school, built a factory, lost the majority of our employees, hired up new people. It was a hard year.
Yeah, did you and Brenda ever just look at each other and be like, what are we doing?
Almost every day that year. Almost every day.
I can't. It just seems overwhelming, just the complexity of moving an entire company and trying to restart
just moving out of state, like as a family.
Oh, man.
It's hard.
And just, again, having to continue to run the business. It's not like you can just hit pause and be like, hey, sorry, guys, we're going to be moving. We're off for a year.
We were having to get temp employees back in California because how are you going to, when people start leaving, you can't rehire full-time people when they're like, it's not a career anymore because they have to move. And so we had a team out there, and it was tough. And then, so March of 19, March 1st was our occupancy of this building. Manufacturing space, I think we're about 30 or 45 days later till the office space was done. We're like, we don't care about office space. Yeah. We can work out our homes. We need to make stuff. And so the last part of February, we'd actually sent a bunch of new employees here that we hired in Sheridan for several weeks out to Paso in California to train with a lot of our older folks on our equipment that was there, so we'd have the least amount of downtime, right? Because we had guns on back order, to get out the door to customers. So then end of February, our employees from California got in moving trucks. We had semi after semi show up and get all our equipment, which is supposed to be plug and play here. Never quite as easy as that.
Yeah.
It all got here, and then March 1st of 2019, Brenda was out in California saying goodbye to all the employees and closing well and ending well with a lot of good employees on the same exact day. I was out here on our completely empty shop floor with semis literally backing up with the first equipment, giving the troops here kind of a rah-rah, let's do this, and start unloading the trucks type of day. And that was March 1st. Then we had our grand opening June 1st of 19, which we just celebrated 3 years, or are going to be celebrating 3 years.
Yeah, coming up here soon. Crazy.
So, that was the move. I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy.
Yeah.
But here we are 3 years later. We've doubled our head count, doubled our revenue. We got some cool new products. We got an amazing team. We're in an amazing area, amazing hunting around here. Just all in all, we look back and go, it was so worth it. Yeah. But I don't have it in me again, and it's a good thing we're here to stay.
What was your biggest kind of takeaway from that whole experience? Maybe learning lesson or something that just really resonates now that you can reflect back on it?
It's the same, an entrepreneur, a business owner, and those people know. Doing hard things, pays off. Yeah. And we knew it during the time. If we could weather that storm, Wetherby was going to be in a much, much better place. And you get bogged down, you can't see the forest through the trees and the daily things. And that's kind of how it was at the time. And so, we'd been kind of dying a little slow, painful death in California too. So just business-wise, it wasn't that great, at that time. And so it was a really hard time. But honestly, it's perseverance. And it makes you think when you have those bumpy times or, initially when COVID hit and everybody's like, what are we going to do? And how are we going to keep running our business? But I was like, well, good thing we're not in California, non-essential. So, we're out here. But I think it was just that thing of, and even my faith came into it. You trust God. We felt God called us here. to do this and to be the leaders that would do that and rip off the Band-Aid and just spend a couple really rough years. And in the end, like, we just constantly say, like, we had the favor of the Lord and we're blessed, and with how we're doing now and our employees are doing, like, we're just like, wow, it's just a sign that you persevere through those things you're called to do. And, you know, there's lots of hard things people go through, from health issues to business issues, financial issues, relational issues, marriage issues, and you persevere and you try to do what's right. And in the end, you're like, yeah, that was the way it should have gone.
Absolutely.
So
when now that you're kind of 5 years at the helm, did you ever experience imposter syndrome? A lot of entrepreneurs talk about, like, when they're kind of leading a company or building a company, that they almost don't feel like they're worthy of the position, or like, man, I'm not a CEO. Like, I was in ministry forever.
Yeah.
Did you ever experience that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. All the time. And, you know, that's the thing too. Like, I think when we moved here, we felt like entrepreneurs of a 75-year-old brand, which was really weird. Yeah. Because there was a time where Brenda and I looked at each other, and we literally we'd had a handful of people say they were coming 100% and doing the move. At the 100% turned to 0. And so there was a time where, like, yeah, there's 10 of us, there's 15 of us, there's 20 of us. You know, initially we thought there's 50 or more, you know. And then there was a day we looked at each other and we're like, you're coming with me, right? Yeah, okay. We may be the only two. And so it was a time period where we had to, like, figure things out of the business that you wouldn't have of a established 75-year-old 3-generation business, that had we not moved, we would have felt less entrepreneurial, if that's the way to say it.
Absolutely.
So in other words, you know, she heads up the people aspect. She actually heads up the facilities, which is funny. Because before we moved here, she'd be like, she never thought she'd have done that. And, you know, she has her master's in organizational leadership. I was trying to think what it was. And so she loves the people part of it and all that. But at the time, again, I was running the business, and I still had to be the face of the business. I'm at shows, new products, blah, blah. And so I'm like, I can't go to weekly meetings and talk about building a 75,000 square foot facility. Like, I just can't get in that. Yeah. She's like, I'll do it. So she was literally she built this building, not herself, with a great team of people, contractor and our local economic development agency. But it was down to, like, everything of, like, she's like, yeah, I know about every dust collection unit out there, you know, our traps underground, you know, this underground range, all those things. And then in the same way with me with the business, there was a time period where I was much more involved in engineering than I ever had before. I'd learned things that so I learned a ton through it. So back to your question, I think pre-move, I felt a lot more like that. We learned so much through the move, where we had our hands in way too many things for a business of our size and maturity that owners probably shouldn't be involved in. Like, let people do that. Yeah. But we were rebuilding a team. So through that, it's given us a bit of confidence. But still, we couldn't do it without our, you know, obviously, just couldn't do it without our team. But I used to feel it more. I feel it less now, but I still certainly feel that way. But the move, I think, it helped us. That's what we told people even when we hired them. We said, look, you may think you're coming to Wetherby, 75 years old, this prestigious brand. My dad had one, my grandpa had one. Okay, just so you know, we're starting everything from scratch. Yeah. It's all starting over, and it's going to be a couple years, like, pretend like you're going to work for a startup. That's what we told people. It's going to be a couple years of a lot of hard work, even before you might see some maybe personal or career rewards on your own part. But it's going to take some perseverance. If you're looking to come in and be on cruise control, like, this is not the business for you right now. And so we had to kind of, like, almost talk people out of coming to work for us, because we wanted to paint the picture that, like, we're restarting a business over again, which is really what we did.
Which I'm sure that transparency really helped too, right? Because then you're getting people that are wired a little bit different. They're looking to do a bit of a grind, a bit of a hustle, compared to your point, just coming in and having a job. Yeah. Because it was in a sense, like you mentioned, like a bit of a rebuild. Yeah. Like, legitimately from the ground up.
Right. And now those that have stuck it out with us, have been here a few years, like, they've seen that growth, and that's so exciting for people. Just like people do at a startup or something, to go like, wow, I was there at the beginning. You know, there's some that are here since the beginning of Wyoming, not since the beginning of beginning. We still have, obviously, some of the California folks left, and, you know, a lot of them got promoted or in management, and they're doing an awesome job. And then those people, too, remember the old Wetherby and remember the transitional Wetherby. Sure. So they're really thankful that we're where we are on this side of it. And then our new employees, same thing. It's more, you can be less entitled.
Yeah.
Because you've seen what you've been through.
Sure.
So.
Did you guys ever have any inkling or idea or consideration of just selling the business? I mean, in this industry, I mean, there are so few family-owned companies anymore.
Sure.
They're gobbled up by big conglomerates, right? Yeah. It's like, in a way, your exit button to just be like, all right, we did a great job. We got to this point. No doubt somebody would come and acquire us. The business is for sale.
Sure.
What made you not do that?
Yeah. To hit eject in the seat of the of the F-16 going down. Yeah.
There's no is there another family-owned firearm company still around? Not many.
The ones that were started during our era would be Nosler. We're in the 40s, obviously primarily ammo. Yeah. Hornady, still owned by the Hornadys, obviously exclusively ammo and other reloading and so forth, safes. And then Hodgdon Powder. Those would be Mossberg has some family ownership as well, but those would be the businesses that are kind of there. You have obviously Remington, the largest U.S. gun maker. Obviously they've had a bunch of trials and different ownerships, and then you have some that have gone public like a Ruger, and Bill Ruger started I think 3 years after my grandpa started, and so it is definitely a unique place to be where your name's still on the side of the building all those years later and stuff. And so I mean my dad couldn't count on be more than both his hands. He'd have to use all his toes to come to the people that approached him over all the years. And certainly no secret that obviously I get calls too. Yep. I mean that's just what happens.
Absolutely.
In a business, especially when you're growing. Yep. Or when you're not growing. People want to pick you up when you're down too. But to be honest, it's right now, it's our passion, Brenda and I, and what's going on in the business and the growth and seeing the potential of the brand and really feeling like in being in Wyoming, we've taken a little bit of the handcuffs off. Mm-hmm. We're in California, we had so many obstacles and hurdles and, cost setbacks and all those things. But at the end, when you go into a gun shop and see us next to one of our competitors, the consumer doesn't care. They're not that they don't care. They don't know. They're like, why is the Wetherby more? Well, I'll sit down and tell you for an hour and a half why it's more. Well, that was a choice that we made to leave that. And so in a sense, it freed us.
Sure.
And, in moving to Wyoming, we truly feel freedom. We really do. Little shout out for Wyoming.
Absolutely.
And in feeling that and understanding that, having a new facility with new people in a new location, it's just so exciting to see the brand momentum right now in what's happening, that's what drives us. And so certain days are hard, no doubt. Leading any business is hard. Leading a gun manufacturing business might be especially hard, but everybody'd say that about whatever they're leading, because I understand that. It's tough. But the reward at the end of it, and I'm not talking about financial reward, I'm just talking about knowing it's a 77-year-old family business that's really grown into those big shoes is just fun. Yeah. It is the next generation. We partner with folks like you guys, and when we did, it's like this, at the time, a 70-year-old business with these new YouTuber dudes out of Utah and Idaho, whatever. Yeah. We're like, wait, is that a fit? Shouldn't they be with some new startup? And that's what's been fun is kind of the new flavor and the new stuff. And folks like you guys have really helped us, with that identity of knowing Wetherby isn't just your grandpa's gun.
Absolutely.
But that it can be a tool that you can use, your kids can use, and that kind of stuff. So it's just, I guess, back to your question, we're just still having a good time when we got some ground to cover, You
kind of touched on it briefly, but a lot of consumers that don't necessarily know the backstory, the history, the industry dynamics may initially look at just the MSRP of a rifle and say, wow, why is Wetherby more expensive than a different competitor? And I think, my observations just taking the factory tour, I was really blown away just by the number of touch points every single piece has before it's a final product that's ready to go out the door and, be purchased by a consumer.
Yeah.
Can you touch just a little bit on why that is? Anything in life,
sure,
any product, service, what have you, there are price differences. In almost all scenarios, you do get what you pay for theoretically. But in in your own words, what is the differentiators of the reason behind the price difference?
Sure. No, it's a good question. We've always been known as kind of a premium top shelf, product, firearms and ammo. And obviously we do have different, we have shotguns where you can enter it more, in rifles, both with their Vanguard or say our Element shotgun that are in that, slightly above maybe $500, $700 range, and you can get into it. Then we got custom stuff upwards of, $5,000.
Yeah.
We're known for the more expensive stuff. I think you asked earlier about the volume, and we sell a whole lot more Vanguards than we do Mark Vs. Our Vanguard selling point, at retail would be $500 to $1,000, and it's probably more now. I don't know. Tough for me to keep up with inflation lately.
Absolutely.
And then, Mark V starts after that and goes up from there. We obviously sell a lot more at that lower price point. But when you get to more like the Mark Vs, it is, I think the sweet spot for us of what we found in really a lot of things growing in the custom gun world market is we tend to do really well in a lot of production-like features. And even as you talked about, hand type of stuff, right? You saw today, whether it be hand painting, stocks, hand polishing barrels, hand spraying Cerakote. So we try to give really custom features at kind of an upper level production price is where a lot of our sweet spot is in our Mark Vs, and that's what people realize is. And I remember a couple years ago we were at a show, a consumer show, and a guy came in. And I think it was Wild Sheep Show maybe. And he was taking a look at one of our new rifles. It was like $3,000 rifle. I mean, it was top shelf rifle, for Mark V. It was at our upper end. And he goes, man, this is awesome. It's got these features and that. And it's got all these features. Wait, it's only $3,000? Yeah. He goes, I'll be right back. I'm like, where are you going to go? He's like, I'm going to cancel the rifle I just ordered in that booth over there. That's 3 times as much money. Because this one seems like it's going to do everything that can do, maybe more. He literally goes and cancels it and comes back and places an order for one of ours. And I think that that's a sweet spot for us, that we can be that top shelf product. There's $5,000 plus rifles out there that guys are building these custom things. And there are things that they're going to offer that, sure, there's a different set of expectations, quarter MOA, eighth MOA, 16th. I'm joking, but, these guys have these huge expectations. We can't promise them that, but we can promise them it's going to be more than that entry-level product. And so I think through that, it's going to cost more as it isn't just a giant machine that's just cranking out all these products. But it like you saw today and experienced, that does just cost more to do it the way that we're doing it. And obviously overseas, you can get stuff done cheaper. And we do some importing and some stuff here, and the price point reflects U.S. manufacturing is awesome. It costs a little bit more, and at times it does make sense to import for us, and at times it makes sense to do it here. Or, you take there's other manufacturers that, do the same things where maybe their top shelf product is here, and if customers want to pay for it, they will. And yet sometimes we can get some things done overseas that still are up to our standard and our quality. That's going to be more affordable.
Yeah,
going to see that, but.
For folks that maybe aren't as familiar with like the kind of the history of Wetherby and really the differentiator on the cartridge side of the world, can you just speak to a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, we started as a cartridge company first and foremost. It was actually my grandpa's craze for high velocity, and that's how we started with speed. Period. He went on a hunt in the early 40s, injured an animal in Utah, and like a mule deer, and he just said, this shouldn't be. It was actually like ethics that drove him towards it. You hear that, entrepreneur books and starting things. It's like, what is that thing that led him to it? That's not just the product or not just business, but that's what drove him to it is like, and I'll bet if that bullet was moving faster, it had provided more energy. And I bet we wouldn't be tracking that animal all night and losing him. Yeah. And that's what sent him back to really doing what he was doing. So he did what's called fire forming, where he took existing cartridges, chambered a gun for a maybe slightly larger, cartridge, and he had his rounded shoulder on his cases and the belt on the bottom, and kind of started doing this stuff that was a little wild and out there, and started moving things faster, probably too fast at the time. And then pretty soon he was started to get some notoriety and wrote some letters to editor magazines, Sports Afield put him in one of the letters to editor section, and people were like, who is this Roy Wetherby, this high velocity crazy guy? And then he started chambering rifles, didn't have an action at the time, Mauser actions and things, and chambering them in his 300 Weatherby, 270 Weatherby, 257 at the time. And, it was the fastest 30 cal, fastest 25. And so here we are today. We have 15 Weatherby Magnum cartridges. In many cases, all but maybe one or two across the line of every caliber, we win the speed game still. And so and many times we beat ourselves. So we come out with one and then come out with one faster. And so, with that, sure, there's a little more premiums, a little more gunpowder goes into it, customization to get it to where it is from an ammo standpoint. But we often say nothing shoots flatter, hits harder, than a Weatherby. And there's a lot of long-range stuff where guys are shooting and plank and steel, which I think is fun. I think there is an ethics part when it does come to the animal and providing for a quicker, humane kill. And I think more velocity and more energy gives you a little more margin for error. Moving some of the bullets as slow as people aren't as far out as there's just not a lot of margin for error on where you're hitting them. When you're talking wind, the faster a cartridge is going, the less drop it's going to have and the less wind drift it's going to have. And so by having, fast, it does enable us, especially places like we live out here in Wyoming, to be able to comfortably and ethically shoot out a little bit further. And so that's kind of the core of who we sell a lot of rifles and non-Weatherby cartridges too. But it's a differentiator. Our business has to have it, and ballistic superiority is what we say internally. Ours are going to be ballistically superior. Things are going to be moving faster and provide more energy. And it's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question.
100%. Yeah. Hard question, but do you have a favorite?
No. Easy question. I don't. Because I kind of grab different ones all the time. I'm always product testing and doing things. I mean, for a couple years, the 6.5300 was the first cartridge introduced kind of under my leadership. And it was just so stinking fast. And it was the fastest 6.5 out there. So, for a while, that was super fun. I love just 300 Weatherby as a go-to, back to that hush hunt we did. But sometimes, I love the 378, which is the fastest 30 cal. And that one's just wicked fast.
Dude,
So,
Scott,
257, 65 RPM.
The old boys at Thompson Long
Yes.
Range really live and die by the 3378. Like, that is everything to them. And to your point earlier, talking about the components of the velocity and the energy, they walk us through, and we've shot with them before, kind of the ballistic charts and looking at where they think is an ethical distance to kill to. And the 3378 really kind of pushes the distance for them based on the energy and the velocity and what they think will just basically shut down the nervous system of an animal with that margin for error you talked about, of not maybe having a perfect hit in the lungs or something like that.
Yeah, that's Mark Thompson that does Thompson Long Range out of Logan, Utah. I mean, that's his – it's funny because, we don't pay him to teach that course.
Yeah.
But his whole course is on Weatherby Magnum cartridges, and he loves the 3378.
He loves it.
He loves it.
What he loves even more is comparing and contrasting that to other different ones, and just showing hey, if you shot a standard 270, your effective kill range would really only be 500 yards versus the 3378. We feel comfortable out to I think it was 1200 or something, which is a long ways, right? But just based on
you gotta be able to hit your target, but from an energy standpoint.
Correct.
Yeah. I think he says. Shoot, I'm saying on podcasts I never quote numbers, but I think he says 1,200 foot-pounds of energy and 1,800 feet per second.
That sounds right.
It's either 13 and 18 or 12 and 18
is
what they live by.
12 and 18,
Yeah. So
super interesting. Those guys are definitely dialed.
Yeah.
You talked the last 3 years, obviously things have gone great since you opened up here. What are you most excited about for the coming year or 3?
Sure. There are things I can't talk about.
I'm sure there's top secret stuff locked in the vault.
Yeah. No, we got, we're focused this year on a lot of efficiencies here in manufacturing, and just, as we're growing, you can grow a little too fast. And we've grown a lot the last 3 years. And this year we're really trying to keep up with demand. I mean, this last year we've had new products that we've shelved because, we want to be able to deliver ammo to customers that want it for their guns they already have, and, different things like that. So we're really trying to up our production, invest in capital to do that, put in efficiency so we can crank out more stuff. Yeah. And that's kind of, it doesn't sound as fun to people listening, but But it does if you're waiting for Weatherby product.
Absolutely.
And you want the lead times to go down. So we're really focusing on that internally while our engineering and new product development team are working on a lot of new products. 23 is going to be a good new product introduction year for us. And to be honest, we're 22. It's literally catch up and do a lot of things internally to really ramp up to be able to meet the demands that are out there. So those things excite me as a CEO of a business, being able to do that, ramp up production and make some cool investments and get more efficient. And in turn, it helps our business grow and helps, our customers, get their guns and all that kind of stuff. So
is the outlook improving for those that are like curious about, ammo
Sure.
to you name it? Just kind of obviously the pandemic created a lot of challenges for so many businesses, Weatherby notwithstanding. So
no, yeah, I mean we could do a 3-hour long podcast where I talked about supply chain woes. Yeah. It would be the most depressing podcast ever. Yeah. And then everybody else that's trying to run a business, trying to get things, would go, me too. Yep. I've experienced that too. And so it has been real. I think even the supply chain and logistics, even just logistics from trucking to shipping, imports, customs, raw materials. Of course, we had, COVID shutdowns from suppliers and all those kind of things. And then just demand, like in the ammo part, I think what happened even in the hunting realm is you have, you're like, why would Weatherby ammo demand be so high? It's expensive and it's not handgun or AR ammo. Yeah. So why in the world? But what happened was we often follow those trends. We're in the same industry. It's in the same gun shops and things happen. And pretty soon, people started going, they've been hunting for 20 years with a 300 Weatherby, and they go show up for hunting season, and they're out. That creates fear for the hunter and go, I don't ever want to be out. Yeah. So then he goes back to the gun shop 3-4 times. The first time he sees it there, he might only used to be a 2 or 3 box guy. Yeah. I sight it in, I go hunting. Guess what? If there's 8 to 10 boxes on that shelf, he's not telling his wife, but he's buying it, where he's like, I don't want that to happen again. Same thing happened, toilet paper and hand sanitizer and everything else. I don't know if that stopped. And so at a certain point, it's got to. But what happened is, and that's what, people say, when's it going to stop? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. You're the ones buying all this stuff and hoarding it. Yeah. And so when is it, going to stop, and when is that demand going to go down? I think we've seen it more on the self-defense side, tactical side on the ammo, and those things start to fill up. And then now the hunting cartridges and projectiles are really backed up and really out there. I'll be honest with you. We have projectiles on order from certain suppliers that have a 24 delivery date. And we're sitting here spring of 22.
Unbelievable.
So I know that doesn't give a lot of hope. But we are freeing up where we are getting, the 4 components, a cartridge, a projectile, the powder, and the primer this year by far more than last year. So one of the big questions is, when is it going to saturate out there at the retail level? When are our shelves going to finally get to a healthy point where it's not, there's 5 boxes, I'm buying it. There's 10 boxes, I'm buying it. So that's going to be kind of what dictates it. So I think through 22, it's probably in the hunting category, and in certain things it's still going to probably be a little bit scarce. I think it will be better than last year.
Sure.
We're able to get way more and load way more than we ever have. Or than we did last year. So it's going to be getting better, but I don't think it's going to be, quote, normal for a while still.
Yeah.
In that, but.
Well, at least there is hope. I know there was a good amount of 257 rolling off the supply chain line.
You saw them today,
which is hopeful.
Yeah, people think there's no ammo. It's like every day we'll ship stuff, and it's like, I don't know where it's going. But we ship stuff out our door every day. I don't know where it's going. It's going in bunkers or garages.
For sure. I was just at a retailer just 2 days ago, and it's still real scarce.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Across the board, even like shotgun shells, you name it. Like everything.
What we're telling a lot of customers too is there's a lot of people that they found a bullet in a cartridge that worked. Let's say you buy factory stuff or even hand loads. And okay, I'm a 180 AccuBond guy. I'm a 180. Let's say you're 300 Weatherby, 180 Nosler AccuBond factory guy. 180 AccuBonds in general from Nosler have been one of our hardest to get bullets.
Yeah.
Okay, we just haven't got a fair amount of delivery. There are other bullets out there that are bonded bullets with similar construction. We've been loading a lot of Swift Scirocco. What's Swift Scirocco? It's a very similar bullet. We've used it a lot. It's inherently very accurate in our cartridges. And the terminal performance is outstanding, much like people would come to expect out of an AccuBond. Consistency's there. Swift is a great name. So we're able to get those bullets quicker. So we're loading them and introing them. Now, we got Nosler AccuBonds on back order, and some customers, I got to wait for that. What we're telling people is, if you can, in a similar construction bullet, we're doing it, that's one example.
Yep.
The all copper, Barnes has been hard to get, not as hard as Nosler, but Barnes has been hard to get. And that's typically our all copper solution. We found some of these custom guys out of Montana that are building these hammer bullets. They're all copper. They're turned on a lathe. They are by far our most accurate bullet across the board. They are more expensive.
Sure.
It may sound like I'm upselling something, but I can get them, and they're really accurate.
Yeah.
They're lead-free. They're great bullets. So maybe it's time, if you can't find a Barnes and whatever, maybe it's time you try a hammer. Maybe it's time you try a Swiss Scirocco, or, there's a Hornady Interbond instead of an AccuBond. They're different bullets, and so what we're doing is I'm putting our ballistic team on it, and I go, look, guys, this is a bullet we can get quicker than these others. We got back orders piled up. We need to get customers ammo for their guns so they can go out and hunting season. So I feel like we owe it to our customers to do best we can. It's costing us more time and money to try bullets because it still has to be commercially loadable for us.
Yep.
It's got to have the velocities that we need to have, the accuracy, and the terminal performance. It's got to have all four of those things. If it does not pass all four of those, then we don't buy the bullets. If it does, we'll put it in our line. And so on our website, customers go, why are they? We have had more new bullets the past year or two, but I can't make a Nosler bullet. I'm not Nosler. If I can't get it, I can't get it.
Correct.
But if I can get bullets from Swift and I can load them and we're feeling they're having great performance, give them a try. Sure. And so we're telling customers to kind of try to do that. And maybe they find out. I actually heard on a podcast the other day the amount of consumers generally, not just our industry, consumers in the U.S. that have changed brands that have never thought they did. They went to the grocery store before. I always joke, I'm using the same deodorant I've used since high school.
Sure.
Like Gillette Cool Wave. But I'll tell you what, if you go and they're out of Gillette Cool Wave like 3 times in a row and I try some Old Spice, I may be hooked on Old Spice for the next 20 years.
Oh, sure.
And so I think it's happening, and I think like in the ammo world or things, we've realized that, and it may be time, even though we like our old deodorant, like try something new. So
I think that's great. Just giving some options, and to your point, trust in the process that you guys have done the research, and it's going to meet your standards, and it's a great alternative.
We're not going to load it if it doesn't meet those criteria.
Yeah, so absolutely.
Yeah.
Fun stuff coming up this fall. Do you have any good hunts lined up?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to Africa in 2 months.
Ooh.
Which isn't this fall. And then in the fall, I'm doing my first mountain goat. So those are the two.
Awesome.
And then I'm doing 3 states of mule deer in the fall. Those are probably some of the highlights.
Do you have a favorite species that you like to chase? You've obviously had a chance to chase a lot of them.
Yeah.
In different environments, different settings. Any of them stand out that
Well, I'd love to draw more sheep tags.
Yeah.
I've had the opportunity of hunting 2 sheep.
Yeah.
In fact, I hunted one bighorn I drew the year that I drew the New Mexico bull tag. I went and hunted with you. It was that same year that I drew Oregon tag. But, I'd say I love hunting sheep, but I've only done it twice.
Sure.
Which is great. As far as things I can get, the last couple years I've really been enjoying mule deer here in Wyoming.
Yeah.
It's been really fun. I always hesitate in saying this. Don't move to Wyoming. The hunting sucks here. But as a resident of General Tag, I shot, over a 30-inch wide buck 2 years in a row. You had to work for it, and no people or no spots or no places, but public land. So there's some of that great stuff, here. So I've really been enjoying that the last couple of years.
I think being a resident in the states of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho are pretty dang desirable.
Mm-hmm. Especially Montana. I'd recommend Montana. See, I'm already a resident. I've been here a few years, as everybody does, right?
You have to, right? Locals only.
Yeah, I'd probably go to Idaho. They're pretty good too. So.
It's true, though. Utah's great or whatever, but the opportunity just isn't the same comparatively speaking.
Sure. No, it's totally true. Yeah. So the hunting, I think after being here, having to travel to go hunting before, and then now, I think just hunting in your backyard here and going and being able to scout, go out and take my kids out. Got Connor his first elk last year, my son. And, those things, that's been honestly just the most fun. Being here, getting general tags. We've got a couple good draws since we've been here, and then just a lot of general tags that we've been able to to get out. It's fun to do. Well, I mean, I turkey hunted on the way to work.
I was just going to say, I literally pulled up in the parking lot this morning, and you and Brenda were jumping out of your car, full camo, shotgun in hand. Right. Just was out chasing turkeys. Almost killed one this morning. Like, that's not
I should have shot that Tom. Just branches were in the way. But no, it's not. I mean, just a before work deal. Show up in your camo. That's kind of the environment here. There's a lot of orange hats and a lot of comparing bucks in the parking lot in the fall. It's hard to approve everybody's vacation all fall because we still got to meet customer demand and make stuff. That's one of the biggest challenges.
I noticed that there's a lot of, trophy shots on people's computer screensavers and whatnot, which you might not find in other types of environments.
Right. Yeah. So, then I'm actually, looking forward. So this will actually be my first African safari. I've been to Africa 4 times. Actually did a lot of missions work there.
Yeah.
And Brenda hunted there in 2016. My dad had gone on 2 safaris before he was 20.
Yeah.
And I've just been waiting for the right opportunity with the right people, and it came up, and actually just about a month ago.
That's cool.
So I'm putting together a last-minute hunt, building a couple kind of safari guns for it through the custom shop. Not in front of customers, of course.
Sure.
Waiting, but
that's right, yeah.
Right alongside them. So looking forward to that. There's going to be some like a free-range kudu stuff I'm going to do, and some fun plains game and stuff like that. So.
Well, I think it's cool because you obviously have a lot of opportunities. You know a lot of people in the industry. There's a lot of connections, the potential like with the family history and all the things. But I've always appreciated like what you and Brenda do as far as just getting after it and backcountry, public land, kind of hard, grinded out, tough, difficult type of hunts, which again, you have a lot of opportunities to do maybe some less difficult hunts, but you don't. Yeah,
and that's what I've had such a passion for that, where like my grandpa's kind of testing grounds for products were Africa, and that's kind of how he made a name in the 50s, going over there and coming back, and he'd get these town hall meetings and let everybody know and show them his pictures, and he literally tested his bullets. You could shoot a lot of stuff over there in the 50s for not a lot of money.
Right.
And it was his testing of his cartridges, honestly, and he'd feed villages every time.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, just that the backcountry has been more where I've been drawn. And just that, I don't know, the same hard work that we talked about doing the move here, that when I get out there and put in the hard work, maybe on a DIY public backcountry, said all the buzzwords, that when I do something like that, not that I don't turn my nose to anything else, and I do both. And, I'm doing a couple outfitted hunts this year, and I'm doing a few backcountry DIY hunts, and I come to appreciate, both those. I think we've done far more of the kind of the DIY stuff since being in Wyoming, and going and kind of just really been able to scout and figure stuff out, which has been super fun. But I felt like that's a little bit of my testing ground. I always knew I'd need to get over to Africa.
Sure.
Just all the stories and pictures and old films, and I mean, my grandpa had like audio tapes of dictaphones when he's over there, on his safaris, and just the classic thing when my dad launched the 416 in 1988 or 89. He went over with writer Craig Boddington and did a hunt over there to test it. And so it's in my blood. And so it kind of just lined up this time. Yeah. But I think, to be honest, part of the reason I didn't was I didn't want to ride around the back of a Land Cruiser and just kind of start picking stuff off. Like I wanted a thing, and the guy I'm going with, it's like, this is legit, Adam. This is going to be as old school Africa as you can still get. And so I'm kind of excited about
That'll be really cool. Just like the throwback style to kind of some of your grandfather's initial ways of going about it.
Sure. And I think as hunters, you can get on both sides, where the public land guys can frown upon the other stuff. And it's like, I think there's a place for all that, and different things and stages of life, different people's health conditions, family, economic status,
time.
Yeah, I mean, there's just different times for different things.
We've always been just supporters of any and all legal forms of hunting, right?
Correct.
Like let's embrace it. Let's celebrate each other. And if you do private land, if you had access or opportunity to it, I don't know a lot of people that would say no to that.
No,
I think there's also great pleasure in grinding out on a super difficult over-the-counter public land DIY hunt. But to say that one is better than the other, I think is unfortunate that a lot of hunters kind of get into. And we got to do a better job as a community just celebrating all forms of it.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. If it's legal, ethical, then
that's right.
I think, we support it. And but it may mean that personally, I don't prefer one style and I don't do it. But I shouldn't shame somebody else if they do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, Adam, I appreciate the backstory, the time, the support of our brand. You guys have been a fantastic partner with us. We still feel like incredibly blessed to have a Hush Edition Vanguard rifle.
It's fun
with a company that has such history and legacy. And again, just like the support that you and the team have shown us over the years is fantastic. And really looking forward to what it continues to look like down the road.
Absolutely. Well, just as we've grown, you guys have grown, and it's been fun to see and be a part of and learn from you guys, in the space that you guys are in, out there creating some good content and just real authentic content. And so it's been fun to be a part of. And I was thinking it's crazy. It's been 5 years since we went on that elk hunt. I used the Hush rifle. That was kind of right after we painted it up, I think the first time. That was
the very first test run we did.
And got it done. And so it's cool to be here 5 years later, kind of revamped and working with you guys. And who knows what the future will hold. But it's cool. You guys are still doing what you love, and we're still doing what we love, and it aligns in the middle.
Absolutely, man. Waking up every day and doing something that you love is pretty powerful.
It is. It's awesome.
All right, guys. Thanks again for watching or tuning in, I should say. We're not filming this one. We're just recording it, but we appreciate the support. If you haven't already, give us a follow. Subscribe to the good outlets that we have, whether that's on YouTube, Instagram, and go check out Wetherby. Obviously, we're biased. We work with them, but I hope you appreciated Adam's story, his transparency, and the fact that they're a third-generation family business. And if you're considering buying a firearm, check them out.
Well said, Brian. Well said.
We'll wrap it up. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Thanks, everybody.